Hey, Tyler,
Yeah, Sam?
don't you just hate it when you wake up from being frozen in an iceberg for 100 years and you just want to go penguin sledding, but you accidentally set up a booby trap in a ship that causes your new friend's village to be attacked, and then you kind of feel like you're partially responsible for that happening?
Yeah. Totally. All the time.
I thought I was the only one because I'm Sam Albus.
And I'm Tyler Strandberg.
And this is the Avatar Podcast.
Yip Yip.
On this podcast, we watch the Nickelodeon show Avatar: The Last Airbender, episode by episode, and discuss it in detail.
We talk about plot, themes, and character development throughout the show, as well as anything else we may notice that's also relevant to what's going on in the Avatar world or what's going on in our world.
At the end of each episode, we'll talk about who our favorite character was, as well as give the episode a rating on a scale of 1 to 10.
You're listening to the Avatar Podcast.
Yip Yip! All right, today we'll be talking about the second episode of Book 1.
Second episode.
Yeah, the second
episode. We are already
episode.
on episode 2, 1 week later. Who would have guessed? Like, we're staying on schedule.
Oh, yeah, we're so good at staying on schedule, right, Tyler?
That's how schedule works.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, we are on the second episode of Book 1, and it is called Avatar Returns. And this time, Tyler, do you want to give the overview of the episode?
I think I might want to give a quick synopsis or a summary.
Yeah, we'll share
what the difference is between the two words, but here we go. Upon returning to the tribe, Aang is promptly banished by a furious Sokka for alerting the ship of the Fire Nation prince. Later, Zuko attacks the Southern Water Tribe village and demands the Avatar be surrendered to him. Aang returns to the village where he reveals he is the Avatar and surrenders himself to Zuko on the condition that the latter leaves the village be. Aboard Zuko's ship, Aang frees himself and battles Zuko. Katara and Sokka fly on Appa to save Aang, and the three manage to escape. Katara and Sokka decide to accompany Aang as he travels the world to the Northern Water Tribe. Traveled the world to the Northern Water Tribe. As he travels to the Northern Water Tribe to find a waterbending teacher for both Aang and Katara. I mostly succeeded.
Yes, you mostly did. No, you did a pretty okay job.
We'll give that a 6.
Yes, I give that performance a 6 from you. No, you did great. You did great. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And yeah, this episode premiered on Nickelodeon on February 21st, 2005.
Wait, Sam, February 21st? That's the same day that the pilot premiered.
What? It's almost like they aired on the same day, back to back.
Wow, that's such great useful knowledge. Who was it written by, Sam?
It was written by Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, who are also the creators of the show. They wrote the pilot. Imagine that.
Wait, so are you telling me they wrote both of these episodes together as a pair?
Yes, they did, because they were intended to be aired, what I said before.
Well, let's move on to the first part of the episode.
Let's get into the meat.
Let's get into the meaty meat of it.
And if you don't eat meat, the main course.
It's okay. Aang doesn't eat meat either.
Yeah, so let's get into the main course of the episode. So we want to talk about a couple of themes that we noticed through this episode. And let's start with the first one. The first one we noticed is there is a very, very big theme of responsibility through this episode. A lot of characters, Aang particularly, are finding out what their responsibilities are.
Right.
Yeah.
Even just taking responsibility. Aang, right away in the episode when they return to the village, Sokka gets mad at Katara, and Aang takes responsibility for going on the ship with her. So he is, that's just, a small thing that happens, but it really sets the theme for the rest of the episode.
I think that's very Avatar-like too. Because that's a very Avatar thing to do, and I will be saying that a lot this episode. But I think Aang is just starting to find out what his responsibilities are and things like that. And this, was a great example of how selfless he is. Also, yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit last time about how Katara and Sokka take on these roles in the village, and we see that a little bit here now too. And it also kind of fits into this theme that we're discussing. Sokka says at one point when he's talking to Aang,
"Making a mistake."
No, I'm keeping my promise to Dad. I'm protecting you from threats like him.
Aang,
And I think that really kind of fits in with what he has already determined is his role to be like the protector, but also he views it as his responsibility to defend the village and his promise to their father, who has been gone now for 2 years. And also, like, he takes this very seriously. He puts on like all of the their like warrior
Like
regalia.
war paint,
yeah, war paint is a better word.
Yeah, so he puts all of that on, and I think like he's just trying to fulfill what his dad set up for him. And like you're absolutely right. He feels this is his responsibility, and he alone is going to stand and face the Fire Nation ship. But yeah, that just he knows what his responsibility is, or at least what is expected of him, and he is taking it very seriously.
He is taking it very seriously, which is pretty cool of Sokka to do. A little bit later, we're just going to move on. Aang gives himself up to Zuko when he comes to the village. And I think that's a way of like Aang kind of taking responsibility for his actions in a way. You know, I'm a firm believer in that, like, your actions have consequences and like you shouldn't make excuses for them. You should accept them. And that's something Aang does like right away. Like, even back where we already talked about it, he never made an excuse for going on the ship. Like, he just accepted it. And he knows now that it's his fault that Zuko came here. And he now has to accept the consequences for something that he does, which is a very responsible thing for him to do. I'm
going to say it again. It's a very Avatar thing to do.
Oh my God. You know,
he's starting to learn his responsibilities as the Avatar, even though, you know, the characters in this episode are only just learning that he is that. But he already knows himself.
Yes.
So he's starting to, you know, realize where his responsibilities lie.
Well, he has a very strong moral compass of right and wrong.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely the right thing to do to be responsible.
I really like the shot where Zuko like firebends to like threaten the villagers. Or no, he's fighting Aang, and one just like goes past Aang and like goes above the villagers or whatever.
Yes.
And they're like screaming at it, and it goes slow motion, and Aang is like looking at them screaming and stuff like that. And then you just see it in his eyes that he just realizes like, I need to protect these people.
Yeah.
Like Zuko
it's
was
like
dangerous.
An extension of like, it's his fault.
Exactly. Like, I brought the Fire Nation here. Look at what they are doing to the villagers. I need to take responsibility for this. So then he steps up and sacrifices himself and saves the rest of the village.
Returning to the village is like already just like one level of like being responsible and taking action. But then like fighting against Zuko to protect the villagers, that's like just another like level higher of like trying to right your wrongs. And even then, when he sees that's not working, surrendering himself, like that is just like, that is like God tier responsibility.
Like, yes, he's finally, it's the Avatar thing to do. I'm going to say that 5,000 more times this episode.
I wouldn't say like he's very mature for his age, because like I feel like a kid at this age with a strong moral compass would do the right thing as well. But I would definitely say the more appropriate thing is he, like I already said, he has a very strong moral compass. He knows right from wrong, and he will always do what he believes is right.
I agree.
Do you want to move on to the next theme then, since that was all we had on responsibility?
Yes, let's move on to our next theme, which is destiny.
Destiny.
So yeah, this is the whole concept of destiny isn't really brought up until the second half of the episode, I would say. I mean, it's prevalent throughout because, you know, Aang is starting to find out what his destiny is.
I mean, like you've been saying, it's like very Avatar-esque of Aang to be doing these things, which in a way is fulfilling his destiny.
His destiny, quote unquote. Yeah, absolutely. But then, you know, it's more like, it's more forwardly brought up when,
Gran.
Losing, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. When Gran comes in and talks to them.
That is, she literally says destiny.
Yes,
to
she
Katara
does.
And
like,
Sokka.
So she's bringing that up and literally talking to them about their destiny.
Yeah. She talks about Aang's destiny, actually, in the world, she says that he's our only chance at bringing the world peace or something along those lines, which is Aang's destiny as the Avatar. And we see him portraying like these Avatar-esque like actions as well. But also like, I'm going to jump to the very end of the episode. Like, I think he really fulfills his role in the Avatar when he enters the Avatar state to protect Katara and Sokka and get rid of Zuko. I know that he doesn't have like, this is instinctive. Like he doesn't control any of this. He is just going into this Avatar state like in a form of protection. But oh God, that is such a cool scene.
Yeah, it is super cool. But
seeing Aang waterbend like that, it's insane. Let's jump back to Gran and talk about Sokka and Katara a little bit, because Sokka and Katara decide to go after him and help him. And Gran says to them, like, your destinies are now intertwined with his. So that has this whole idea that Katara and Sokka have a destiny of their own. And it now fits in with what Aang's destiny is and how they're going to be traveling with the Avatar. And obviously this is going to be such a big, like, life-changing moment for them. And I think it's really sweet that Gran kind of gives them her blessing to do this.
And I really think that Katara and Sokka are actually pretty quick to accept that this is what they're doing now. Like there's no time, like they're not fussing over this decision. Like, oh my gosh, we're leaving home. Like Sokka is on board
like right away.
Yeah. And
I mean, like, I think it's interesting. We talked last episode about how like they're siblings, and so you can tell they're very similar. And like, I think this is also very interesting because they both know that this is what they have to do. They're just taking different actions of it. Katara's like, we have to do this. Like, Sokka, I'm trying to convince you. And Sokka's like, I was already doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really interesting how quickly he comes around too. Because
it really is.
To Sokka, like, Aang had to earn his trust.
He did.
You know? And Aang, because he came back and defended the village and stuff, that's really how he proved himself.
So he showed that he was going to help the village, which he could have just been like, oh, you did something right. Okay, cool, whatever. Like, you're still the reason why we're here, you know?
Yeah.
And he helped defend the village, which I really helped him because Sokka couldn't defend the village. But on top of that, he said he was the Avatar, which immediately proves that he is not an enemy, and that was something Sokka was worried about all of last episode. He was worried that Aang was an enemy, and he went on the ship and brought Zuko away. So he quite literally saved them in their village.
Yeah,
so I think those two things really, really turned Sokka around on his opinion of Aang, and that's what really convinces him, like, we now need to help him.
That's a really, really good point, because now that Sokka and Katara knows that he's the Avatar, and because, you know, Katara put so much hope into the Avatar coming back, I believe we mentioned that in the previous episode. I mean, she says it in the opening of the episode.
Yeah,
you know, and because of that, because they know now, I mean, Sokka's just all in. He's just like, okay, this is what I'm doing now. He proved to me that he's capable of saving the world, and to them, the world is their village. You know, he sacrificed himself to save that. So Sokka's like all in now. And I think Katara was all in from the iceberg.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think it's really interesting that Sokka and Katara are super quick to accept their destiny, because Aang still hasn't accepted his destiny. Even at the end of the episode, he hasn't accepted his destiny. He quite literally says he doesn't want to be the Avatar. There's this really, really heavy line at the end of the episode that, like, you know, the last episode, it was the penguin selling line. And, like, in this episode, it's this line at the end of the episode that just hits me really, really hard.
Why didn't you tell us you were the Avatar? Because I never wanted to be.
Yeah, we learned so much about destiny, and like we as viewers, and then Katara and Sokka know Aang's destiny. And I mean, Aang knows it too, but he's yet to really accept it in his heart.
He doesn't want to have this huge responsibility that has been placed on him.
He just wants to be a kid.
Yeah.
He just wants to go penguin sledding.
He just wants to have fun. And it's so interesting and so, I don't know. It's just really interesting that Sokka and Katara are just so ready to uproot their whole lives to travel with Aang and save the world, but he doesn't want things to change. He just wants to travel the world and have fun, and he says that like later in the episode. We'll get to that later though.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that a little bit later.
I mean, I think one of the reasons that they're so quick to accept that this is the new destiny is because they are clinging to that hope that he is going to save the world, because they've been oppressed by the Fire Nation for
100
years.
Yep.
You know, that's all they've
That's a
known.
long
And
time.
all of a sudden, Aang comes in. They know he's the Avatar now, so they're like, well, why are we just going to sit here and do nothing? You know, we got to actually go and help. You know, we were the ones that found him. You know, it's maybe their responsibility to help the Avatar, because they helped uncover him. You know, they're probably looking back on, you know, going to the iceberg and opening it. Now that's the context of, oh my God, the Avatar's been gone for 100 years. He was in the iceberg for 100 years. We're the reason he's back.
Yeah.
So maybe they have some sort of responsibility to Aang and helping him along the
Interesting
journey.
to tie that theme back into this one. Nice job.
You can't see, but I'm dabbing like furiously
Yes, you
into the
are, and
microphone
I hate
right
it.
now.
I hate it a lot. Yeah, it's really interesting that we see all of that happening, especially with Aang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's, you know, at the end of the episode, he wants to do some other things before they, you know, continue on their journey. But, you know, he wants to get a little bit distracted, do some fun things. But, you know, despite that, I had a lot of fun learning about his character this episode.
Wait, Sam, we can't talk about that yet. That's too much character talk. We have to take a quick break first.
Well, we'll just talk about it after that then.
And we're back, and we are here to talk now about characters. I think, Sam, this this episode, I think this episode was more character heavy than it was theme heavy.
Absolutely, it was.
And I think it focused on one character a lot.
Oh, and what character would that be?
I would have to say it was Aang.
Oh, the main character of the show?
No way.
Oh my gosh, yes. The episode really heavily focuses on Aang, and I really like that because Aang is a very enjoyable main character. Let's dive into why.
Dive into that. So the first point we have is that Aang is very respectful to those around him, and he doesn't. Well, Aang is very respectful to those around him. Like we talked earlier already with the responsibility. Like Aang is taking so much responsibility for this, right? And he is doing it in a way where it's like he's apologetic to the tribe that he disrupted, and he doesn't want to cause trouble for the people around him. Like he doesn't want Katara to leave her family. Like he leaves the tribe because he doesn't want to cause more trouble to the tribe, you know? Like he cares about these people that he barely knows because he doesn't want to put them in more risk or more danger, or like I don't think he knows he's putting them in risk or danger yet, but he knows right now he's causing them trouble, and Sokka and the tribe is mad at him. So he leaves like they ask him to, you know?
Yeah, he's really like non-confrontational. Like he doesn't want a confrontation to happen, and that's not because he's unable to admit where he's wrong. He's just, you know, he doesn't want to cause any more trouble than there needs to be. So when they, you know, collectively as a village, even though it's just Sokka yelling that he's banished, they don't really, you know, talk about it or anything. He's just like, okay, I'll accept that. I did something wrong and you didn't like it, so we're just gonna accept that.
Yeah. On top of that, like he's a very protective person of the people around him. So he, like, obviously he wants, like you mentioned earlier, the scene where he sees the villagers get fire on them.
Fire near them, more like? Like the fire is near them.
He wants to protect them, and he came back to help the village, to help protect them. And he hears Katara shouting for him when he's in the water, and he goes into the Avatar state to protect them. Something triggered deep within him to protect the people that are around him.
I think it's like intrinsically in him. It's just like in the fiber of his being. He's just a good person.
Yeah, because he cares so deeply about people.
Yeah.
Like he cares about people's well-being and he wants them to be safe.
Yeah. He hasn't been around the village for that long, but he's spent some like bonding time with them. And obviously he knows Sokka and Katara. And, you know, he automatically is just like, I have to protect these people. I need to save these people. And that's when he sacrifices himself to Zuko. Another really great thing about his character is that he's like superhero-esque, like quippy. And he can be like very lighthearted in like very tense situations.
I wouldn't say like quippy. I would say it's more like he knows how to keep. He's very lighthearted. Like he still makes a tense situation into lighthearted. Quippy.
Well, I think you know what I mean, though.
Well, I view quippy more as like, oh, I'm gonna take a jab at you, you know, where quippy has more like an insult connotation to it, where like he's more like lighthearted, making a joke out of things, you know?
Yeah, I mean he jokes around like, you know, almost the entire time when they're on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, like a good he slid in on a penguin to come back to the village. Yeah, you know, like he has a glider, he has Appa, he could have done that.
I would argue it does have a practical use though, because penguins are like, I would assume probably they travel pretty fast on snow and ice. So I don't know. I think it's pretty practical.
Apparently it is. I mean, that's the way he chose to come in. And like it ends up knocking over Zuko, I think.
Yes. It knocks over Zuko and he lands on his face and his butt sticks in the air. And his helmet lands on his butt.
That's right. That's what happens.
It's hilarious.
And he gets snow on like the village kids and they're all like cheering and stuff. Like again, it's a tense situation and he makes it very lighthearted. He what did you call it? Bantering?
Quipping?
No, I don't like that word. I said he was kind of like chit-chatting with like the guards on the ship. Even when they took him below deck, he was like chit-chatting with them, trying to strike up like a conversation with them.
Basically.
Even though he's their prisoner. And then like when he runs into the other guards, I would say that is more of a quip where like he asks like, you haven't seen my staff around, have you? Which,
that's definitely
kind of a funny moment.
That's definitely where I got that from.
Even after that, like he shortly he's looking for his staff and he's like opening all these doors trying to find it, and he opens up Iroh's door and he sees that Iroh's sleeping. And like he tries super hard to like be quiet and like close the door. Yeah, he whispers sorry and like
it shows how considerate he is too. I mean, it ties back into what we talked about before of his character. You know, he doesn't even know who the heck Iroh is, and he's just like, oh, he's sleeping. I gotta be quiet.
Yeah. Well, like last episode, we didn't really touch on Aang that much, and I think that's because we only saw one-dimensional Aang, and the one-dimensional Aang that we saw was like he's just like a fun kid, you know. And we still see that here. We still see that Aang is just a fun kid, but there's so much more to him, and he still can apply that fun-loving, lighthearted personality into so many different situations. And God, I love that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. Like he's just such a likable person, even in these like very tense and dangerous situations. Like this is very serious. He just got captured and put on a Fire Nation ship, you know? Like he should be afraid.
Life is at stake.
Yeah, literally it is, but he is like very, very confident in himself that he can do it for one thing, but also it's just like, it's just in his nature to be lighthearted about it, you know? So, yeah.
Let's just go over everything that happened on the ship, right? He's tied up. He's able to, first off, get away from the guards who are surrounding him. Literally, there's
very easily.
Very, very easily. One in front of him, one behind him. And then there's walls on either side. He is surrounded by these guards and he gets away from them like that. He then runs into more guards, and then he not only evades them, but he also like gets rid of the rope or tied around his
he does
hand.
like a freaking front flip and then like cuts the rope on his wrists on the dude's helmet.
Creative thinking too. And like such good use of like the environment around him, and also like he's not hurting these people, he is just kind of like avoiding them, and like he still gets away from them. He runs in circles like around from the floor to the hallway to the ceiling, you know, like
through some dude's legs too.
Like just because he is that skilled of a bender, he is able to do all of these things and like defend for himself. And also he's able to defend himself against Zuko, both in the village and once again on the ship when Zuko locked him in his room. This is one of the things that I like the most about this. It's like he almost never attacks Zuko.
Yep.
He is fully on the defensive in this part, and while he's running away from the guards.
Yeah, it's
too.
really cool how he's evading him too, because it's all like he gets like really close to him, and like is just like moving around.
Yeah,
his
he's like staying
moves.
on his back so that Zuko like literally can't reach him.
It's really cool. I mean, I will just comment. This whole ship sequence has excellent animation. Like it's very fun to watch and very fluid.
Yeah,
So
I'd agree. Yeah, it's really fun.
and like I'm gonna bring this up too. Like Aang knows how good of a bender he is.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not cocky about it at all. He just knows he has an advantage over firebenders that haven't seen an airbender in 100 years. Like when they first take him below deck, he's just like, I bet I can take you both on. And yes, he could. He more can take them on because he knows how skilled of an airbender he is. He was a master airbender at age 12.
Yeah. I want to bring up this point again really quick. We were talking about Zuko, and I said that he didn't attack Zuko. But there's one part
I love this part. I love this part.
Zuko. He like slams him against the wall with his own bed. He like picks up the mattress and uses the mattress to slam Zuko against the wall. And then he falls on the mattress. The mattress falls on the floor, and then Zuko falls on top of the mattress on the floor. And he slams it up against the ceiling. It's funny.
Brutal. I laugh every time though.
It's
like,
just like
it's funny.
That's the only attack that he made on Zuko. Like, it destroys him.
Yes, it does. He's like
hilarious. God, it's yeah, that's just absolutely hilarious. Even with all of this though, too, we talked a little bit about how he's chit-chatty or quippy, as you like to say.
Yeah.
I still don't like
I think
that
I just
word,
like saying that word.
I think so too. I don't think that word necessarily fits with Aang. But at the end of the day, like, he's just a fun character. Like, he just wants to have fun. He just wants to be a kid. Katara says, like, we need to go to the North Pole so you can learn water bending. And he's like, okay. But first,
let me spread out this like this map so I can tell you all the things we're gonna do before we do that.
Yeah.
Because like Katara is very like focused on their goal. Like she has their destiny in mind. They're just like, okay, we're gonna go to the North Pole so you can learn waterbending because that's necessary for your, for what we are doing here.
Yeah.
But Aang is a 12-year-old kid. He just wants to have fun. It's a part of his personality. So, I mean, he's completely valid in doing so. My, like, logical brain, though, is just like, oh my God, get on with it. This is very important.
Yeah.
You don't know how important it is. But then you remember he's 12 years old and naive and innocent and, like, I was very torn. Even when I was a kid, probably, I was torn. I'm just like, why are you doing all these things first? You have a thing to do.
I think that's the whole point of the first season, too. The point of the first season is we need to see Aang grow up a little bit, right?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
fully realize what's going on in the world around him. And he doesn't know all that yet. He's just
you
just
learn
wants to
with
have fun.
Aang. You really do. And that's
Yeah.
one of the like great things about this series. Is
Yeah.
the world building in the first
it takes
season.
them a while to get to the North Pole. It takes them probably 2 or 3 months to get to the North Pole, right? And we see all of that. And, like, based off of how fast they travel around the world in future episodes, like, it would not needed to. It did not take 2 to 3 months to get to the North Pole. They took their
sweet-ass time.
Yeah, they took a lot of time.
Yes, they did.
They did a lot of stopping.
I'm a very, like, if there's something that needs to be done, I want to do that because I will probably be anxious about it before I do that. And I bet Aang is also anxious about what he has to do. Yeah. So it's like, it's the whole, like, I don't want to call it procrastination. I mean, in their context, it kind of is, but in the show's context, it's not because it brings forth a lot of necessary development and world building.
Right.
So, part of me is just like, get on with it.
Well, I mean, in this episode, it kind of seems like Aang is the only character we seem to focus on, right? He seems to be the only character we talked about this
He's in
entire
every
episode.
scene.
Yeah. But, Sam, was he your favorite character?
Tyler, I will inform you that I can't tell you who my favorite character was yet, but I will after this break. And we are back. Okay, Tyler, now it is time to say what our favorite characters were. And I want to know who your favorite character was.
Well, Sam, we focused a lot on Aang. We did also see a little bit of Zuko, a little bit of Katara, and a little bit of Sokka too, right? So there were many characters that I could have felt attached to this episode.
Is there a butt in there?
But ultimately, it was still Aang. Watching this again and just like kind of really digging into it made me realize just how deep Aang's character is, and I was very impressed by him. So Aang was my favorite character.
I have a sneaking suspicion that we might possibly maybe agree.
I mean, you'll know if we agree or not. So a sneaking suspicion does not apply to this situation.
I'm trying to be suspenseful.
Okay, Sam, who is your favorite character?
My favorite character was Aang.
Oh my god, no way.
No
it was like
way.
you knew that.
Yes, I did know that. This, it's so obvious in this episode. Aang is in this episode in every scene. I mean, in the pilot, he kind of was too, but like we learned so much about just who he is as a person. And I think just the scene on the boat alone, the way he single-handedly takes on all those people on the boat is just like so fun to watch. And he's such a likable character and does very likable things and commendable things and is very interesting in his like inner turmoil, you know, in his destiny and things like that. So he is the best character of this episode.
Definitely.
Come on.
Yep, I would definitely agree.
All right, so we've talked about favorite characters, but now we are going to do our ratings for this episode.
Sam,
Tyler,
do you want to explain how we rank the
yeah,
episodes?
I can explain how we rank the
I explained
episodes.
it last time, so why don't you do it this time?
Yes, I will do it this time. So we do not do a scale system like, say, the US grading system where a 50% is a fail. To us, a 50% is middle of the road. It's average. So think 50% is your C. So if we give an episode a 5, it's just, that was an episode. It wasn't good. It wasn't necessarily bad. It was an episode. So we do that standard on a scale of 1 to 10.
What's a 1?
1 is really, really bad. Like, it's terribly bad. And 10 is a amazing episode. We loved the episode. It's a perfect episode, but there's something about it that makes it perfect, not necessarily that it's flawless. If you know what I mean.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
All right, enough about that. Tell me what you rated this episode, Tyler.
I gave it a 10. I gave it a 10 because of Aang's character development. There's so much you realize. The fact that they were able to make Aang still a fun character, but also show how intensely like powerful and responsible and mature he is, I guess, like blew me away. So it's a 10. It's a 10 from me.
And
Sam?
yeah, they do it. What?
Sam, what would you give this?
What would I give this episode? I think
Are
I
you
gave
just-
it a 10.
Oh, okay. I was worried that you were
Ha,
deciding
I acted
this
so
on the
good.
fly.
Yeah, I acted so good that you did. Yeah, obviously it's a 10. I mean, it's an extension of the first episode. They were
really
written
is.
together, they were aired together. They're pretty much equally as good. The pilot is good in its own way, and then this one is really like focusing on Aang's character, and he is treated very well in this episode. I mean, the jokes continue. It's a pretty funny episode, but there's more action in it. It's just a great way to set up this like epic journey that they're about to go on.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Well, that's all we have for this episode. A huge thank you goes out to our producer and audio engineer, Aaron Bogen, along with his production company, Sonovent Productions, and Annie Galloway, who made our cover art and is our graphic designer.
Make sure you join us next week. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It's super helpful to us. Don't forget to tell a friend about the show and share our show if you like it.
If you want to get more involved with our Avatar content, please feel free to reach out to us. Send us questions about the show, fan theories that you have, what you thought of the episode, something we mentioned that you liked, or something we didn't mention that you wish we would have talked about. Our email is airbenderpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet us or follow us on Instagram, both at airbenderpod. That's AIR Bender POD.
If you want to keep in touch and stay updated with the Avatar fandom, make sure you join our Facebook community page, where you can discuss the show and other fans with other fans and ourselves. You can find the link in our description below, or you can search the Avatar Podcast Yip Yip Community on Facebook.
I'm Sam Albus, the co-host and co-writer of this show. You can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Albus or on Instagram at Sam Albus. My last name is spelled Albus.
I'm Tyler Strandberg, the host, creator, and co-writer of this show. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, both at TylerJohn7. That's TYLERJON and the number 7.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.